Okay, so we're going to have a couple of observers because everyone doesn't have to play. Does this work as a setup? Trainers.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to have people in the seats. So to get enough people to fill the seats up as they currently are, except for one, right? You have to keep one seat empty for you. So, sit. A group of people. And I'm not going to be the walker.
Well, you're not going to be walking.
No, because what's the point? I already know how to do it. So that chair is a bit risky. It's empty, but it's really close to the table. Someone's going to get hurt. Okay, so is that the empty chair? Okay, so there's two. You got two empty chairs. It won't work. Okay, so that's never going to work with writing. You're going to find out in a moment. It's just not. So in terms of setting the game up, right? So what I usually say is, it doesn't matter which way that you face, you have to fill up the space as much as you possibly can. Use all the available space in the room. Try not to sit so close either to an object, like a wall, or another person, that a person of approximately my size and girth could not easily pass between you, right? Like that. Okay, so that's pretty good. So they're set up fairly well. They spread themselves out. They use most of the available space. It's perfectly possible for you to move them like this, up, sit, up under it, sit, up, sit, move a little bit that way, not too close to the wall, thank you, good, okay.
Is it important that people who haven't done it should be doing it?
That's what I'm going to let them do. It doesn't matter if they're playing, it's this role that they need to be able to do. Yeah? So, and then I tell them the rules, right? The rules are, does somebody want to do the rules, or do you want me to do the rules?
I'll do one rule.
Okay.
If your bum leaves the chair,
That's,
you got to move.
that's one of the last rules.
Oh, God. So there's an order to these rules.
There's an order to the rules.
You didn't tell us about the order.
I am now.
Okay.
So, the order goes something like this. What will happen is, in a moment, I will be the walker. And I will start walking at a slow and consistent pace, approximately this fast. My job is to walk towards the empty chair. And when I get to the empty chair, what I am going to do is sit down. That's my entire raison d'etre. It's what I live for, sitting down in the empty chair, okay? Your job is to stop me from sitting down. And then I say, that's why it's in order, I hasten to add, you are not allowed in any way, shape, or form to physically impede me. No kicking, biting, gouging, tackling, right? Just sticking legs or arms out. You cannot stop me by getting in the way. Nor are you allowed to hover in front of a chair, right? Get out of the way, it's my chair, I get to sit down. Okay? The only way that you can stop me from sitting in the empty chair is by getting up and sitting in it. You have no speed restrictions. You can go as fast as you want. I hasten to tell you that if you run and leap into an empty chair, the chair will go flying backwards and you'll hurt yourself. Please don't do that. I have no insurance. Okay? Only one additional rule for the sitters, and I will show you with Andrea's bottom. If you lift your bottom even a little bit off the chair, that much, you must get up, and you have to sit in at least one additional chair before you can come back to the chair that you're in. I will bottom spot. If I see you lift your bottom, I say move. You get out of the way. Any questions about the rules?
Clear, sir.
That's the intro for it, Ron. And so I saved that bit for the
No,
end
it's good.
because
Yep,
right,
I
you
see
can
the
see why
context
it's
we're
why
going
it's at the
with.
end.
You
Okay,
absolutely-
I'm not walking. There's no point. I know how fast to walk. Good. Start over here. You have to. Okay, so now we'll stop playing and start talking about the game a little bit because you're all going to be in this role, right? At some point. So the tricky bit of the game is that, and I'm now going to talk to Mo, is that there are some people who think that this is a win-lose game and they want to win. I'm talking to Mo. So the difficult bit is, don't start walking yet. And so sometimes I say, the chairs aren't magnetic. They don't have a gravitational pull. They don't pull me faster when I get close, right? I will always walk at the same slow, steady pace. Technically, this room right now isn't great because it's a bit cramped. You're going to have to walk slower than usual, right? Because it's also long and narrow. As much as possible, when you structure the game, if you can, try to make it into a square, right? Squares work better than long, narrow rectangles because people will almost immediately get the idea of furthest person away. Squares makes it harder. And so what I also say is for the first few rounds, I'm not going to let you talk. I'm just going to let you experience. I will at some point let you talk, but not straight away. We'll just go. Okay?
So round one, no talking. Yeah?
So round one, no talking.
Another rule.
Another rule.
Is there, are there, do you want, for the people that are observing, are there things that you want to set up for them to do in the first?
So I'll say to the observers, I mean, it's kind of obvious because you're splitting them into two groups. Feel free to watch. Please don't comment. Right? You'll have your chance to sit in the seat and have a go at the exercise too, because what we'll do is we'll do 2 or 3 rounds and then we'll swap over. Okay? Thank you, Rebecca. Is that clear? Anybody have any questions about the rules or about what it is that you'll say when you set it up? And this is as much to the CMP people because I'm the one that mostly uses it. Patrick and Nigel now use it because I have indoctrinated them.
They've seen the wisdom of the game.
Yes, that's what I think too. Ready?
Yep. Hands up, who's playing?
A few.
Everyone that's sitting except you're not playing.
You're not playing yet.
Okay.
Start walking.
Walk.
No talking.
You can go a little faster than that. You can even go a little faster than that. That's good pace. Good. Okay, that's perfect, right? So good. Then you say, great, good. Then you come. Then you start over here. Nope. Then you just move over here and you go to that chair.
Oh, you start over here.
Well, you give people some chance because if you start from here, it's a pretty short round.
We go again.
Then you go again. Walk. Okay. Good. Up again.
Again.
Let her sit. But if this is the empty chair, start from fairly far away from it.
You're doing very well at this game. Have you done this before?
Walk. No, you never have to be stupid. Do whatever you want.
Oh, somebody.
It was happening. I wasn't even doing anything.
That was perfect, right? That was just perfect. Shake your hand on that. That was great. So yeah, you can talk now. You can talk now. But I'm not actually we're not playing the game. We're learning how to play the game, how you run it. So you'll remember that I sometimes make some comments when you start to play. They're discretional. Because remember, the point of the game is self-management. When you play it for the first time with a real group, they won't be nearly as, right? You know now not to jump up. They won't, right? And so you're perfectly entitled to go, okay, so what was it that got you out of your seat? I think that's a really useful debrief question. Because you know what the right answer to that is, right? Which is going to be panic. Okay? And then you're allowed as the walker to go, well, my experience is that panic never makes us more intelligent, right? It's like walking, and I almost always use the metaphor of the square full of pigeons.
Yes.
Right? So it's like if you ever walk through a public square occupied by pigeons and you walk, what do they do? Something like this. Right? Pigeons are not known as very intelligent creatures. And right now you're behaving like pigeons. So the first task is to get past pigeon. That's right. So what you're experiencing now is how difficult in situations of uncertainty, where you don't know and you're not in charge, you're not in control, right? How hard it is not to get filled up with a whole bunch of unhelpful feelings. Is that not true? Good, good. The other thing I sometimes say is when I'm walking and he chooses to stand up and I'm here, right? He goes to the empty chair and you sit down. We're doing Greek, right? The stuff that I say is, so I was standing here, Andrea, when you chose to stand up. I'm going to assume that you are a bright, intelligent person because you work for the Home Office.
It's not a criteria.
And you remember, because what I say usually is something like, my assumption is that what was going on in your head when you chose to stand up when I was standing here was that you looked across and you saw that there was an empty chair. So the conversation in your head went something like this. Empty chair, empty chair, empty chair, empty chair. Where's Michael? Don't know. Empty chair, empty chair, empty chair. Right? And so that, again, the function of this game is to show us that if we're going to act intelligently, not only do we have to be aware of the empty chair, we have to be able to pay attention to the wider field. No conversation goes well if you only can focus on yourself and you don't give a toss about her. And in this game, part of the whole objective of the game is to figure out how you widen your attention. So you don't just have to pay attention to the empty chair. You can actually notice where a 5'11", smelly American also happens to be. Right? So I say that because I want to tie it back to the notion of that this game is about the capacity to pay attention. And it's really hard to pay attention if your internal world is mishmash. So are either of those two interventions, either the panic or the not being able to think, are they beyond your capability? Do they make sense? Because I think that they're kind of obvious. And when we played it the first few times, that was really, really, really clear. Because people really did, Chris really did choose to stand up when I was standing here. Okay? And it'll happen, I promise you. It's never not happened. Okay. Anything else that you want to keep doing? I want to briefly, because I don't know, because you've got choices about how long you play chairs for, right? If you're feeling really cruel, you'll only play for 10 minutes, and you'll let them feel that they're stupid idiots. That's up to you, right? It depends how, what side of the bed you woke up in the morning. Nah, I feel vicious this morning. That's it. You're all done. Nah, next. We'll talk about it, right? Or, because you begged, oh, please let us play. Actually, he did. Please let us play longer. I know we can get better at this, because you felt very frustrated the first time you played. You hated it. You really didn't like not knowing what it was that you're supposed to do.
It's the Russian.
So you have some choice. You can let them get better at it. And if you let them get better at it, you have to talk about afterwards, so what did you need to do in order to stop behaving like a pigeon?
And when would you allow them to talk?
So now, after 3 or 4 rounds, I let them talk. Okay, fine, you can talk. And I usually say something like, Judy, you want 30 seconds to talk before I start walking.
If you're using 2 groups, would you use that as the swap over point?
Yeah. So let's swap over. Let's swap over, and in 3 rounds without talking, and I'll let you talk.
Yeah.
Right? We're not actually going to swap over, Ron, because we're not actually playing the game.
Shit!
Okay, so that takes us to one of the other learning points, which is available, and you get some choice about whether or not you want to use it. Which is, remember that when we're playing the game, and start walking and get somebody to do something that's really stupid. So start over here.
So we're playing the game now?
Yeah, you're going to play. So you can talk during the round. No. So you can talk, he's
Yeah,
walking.
relax.
Yeah. Fine. Keep walking. You can go a little faster.
Somebody's going to move the move. Over
That's
there.
good. And
Chair fell
No one's going to do anything.
when that happens, what I usually say is something like this. Panic isn't very helpful. Death is worse. That was death.
Nobody moved.
No one moved.
We did
right?
not prove a point.
Right, but you can actually, Chris. You can go. If you remember back to Silence and Violence, that's an extreme example of everyone choosing to be silent. Right, and that's because nobody. And you can continue on. My assumption is nobody wanted to get it wrong. And it felt safer not to do anything than to screw up.
But also, it's also putting somebody else is going to take responsibility for
Exactly.
it. Somebody else will do it. Somebody else
See,
is going to
those
step
people
in.
over there should have been over here.
Yeah, those people.
Right, okay.
Then that chair would have been vacant, and then somebody.
It's their fault. They
That's
got
right.
it wrong.
So at this point, because I played the game a lot, so I have a whole kind of backlog of stories. I say when you're doing that, right, it's like Ron is doing. So I use my little Scottish lady story, which is playing it within NHS Lothian. We're playing it about this point, and somebody gets up when they shouldn't get up. And a little Scottish lady across the room takes her finger and goes, "No!" because she thought she was being helpful.
Yeah, we should have talked to him.
Exactly. That's what I was waiting for. Ron to
said
do.
something.
No. My experience is that when people make judgments about other people's behavior, that what happens is the game breaks down. Right? that if you make a judgment about somebody else and you think that that's the most useful thing that you can do, I can tell you right now, it's not. The most useful thing that she could have done is she could have gotten up and moved. But she thought she was doing something useful by making a judgment, right? And the other thing that I say about judgments is, when you're sitting here, just walk towards me for a moment, and I go, shit. Right? And so, whether it's judgments about other people or it's judgments about ourselves, when we make judgments, the conversation stops. Right? So I always tie it back into a conversational frame, because I explain this as a conversation with feet, not just with mouths. And so judgments freeze conversations.
Good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
I like it.
Whether you make it about somebody else or you make it about yourself.
Yep.
Because we're going to talk about that in the afternoon, right? We're going to talk about the impact that judgments have on conversation. It's sort of good to see it here.
I think the typical one is, okay, it's my fault. I know, it's my fault.
The problem with that belief is that it doesn't necessarily encourage you to
Talk on.
talk on or do it better.
And matter
next
of fact,
time.
you hardly believe the person really means it's their fault anyway.
I know. Anything else about the game that you want to do? Because at some point you'll go after 3 rounds or so, you'll swap over. The other one will come in. They'll be all cocky because they'll know how to do it. And they're equally crap. Sometimes even worse. And that's great.
I like that pigeon.
Anything else that you need to be able to facilitate the game? And I'm talking as much to, right, to Laura, Lucy, because you're going to have to or do it together. I don't know how you're going to do it. I have a question, though, Rebecca, which isn't an easy one.
Mm.
What happens if the space, and I guess wherever Laura is what happens if the space doesn't work?
So all of the rooms that we've booked should be large enough
To do it?
because they're for 20 people.
Okay.
But you know, we haven't necessarily been able to see all the rooms.
So can I talk as trainers? What I think you have to do is if you go in the morning and there's 40 chairs in the room, ask if you can dump 20 of them someplace else.
Yep.
Car park.
Just to get them out. I've played the game in a car park. I played at Cambridge. They got so angry because I played on the lawns. I can't remember. Claire.
From your perspective, just in case the rooms are a bit too small, you want to do it in 3 groups or something. What is the smallest number of
7
participants
or
do you
8.
think works?
8, 9, 7, 8, 9. You can get away with 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
Like if the room's big enough for